Hey, childcare owners. So let me tell you about the time there was this childcare owner who was losing so much sleep over the letters that she was receiving from the IRS, which seems like she was getting these letters every single week. Not only was she getting these letters from the IRS, but she was also still having to run her facility. She had five facilities. She was having to deal with staffing issues. She was still having to deal with parents and enrollment and payroll and so many other things that it takes to run a childcare facility or facilities. And within these letters that she was getting from the IRS, it was telling her that she owed in taxes for the current year and from several previous years. And guys, she was owing thousands in taxes. That's what these letters were saying. So, of course, she was stressed, she was overwhelmed, and she felt like, she was just suffocating and that she could not keep her head above water. So, when she called me, she was crying hysterically about I just feel like I can't get ahead. I just feel like I'm failing year after year because every single year I'm receiving these letters from the IRS. And it's like a hole that I'm digging myself further and further into. And she just explained to me that, hey, something just doesn't feel right. I feel like there's something I'm missing. And as I looked into her situation more, what we did was our tax time machine. And I introduced this to her and I told her that with this particular process, our tax time machine process, what we're going to do is we're going to go look back into time, right? We're going to take a look at her current situation, but we're mainly focused on looking back at previous years in time. We didn't want to guess what was possibly going on or kind of estimate what her issues were. So, with us going back in time, this means that we had to pull IRS transcripts, several years of IRS transcripts for this child care owner. Not only did we have to pull those particular documents, we saw that there were so many things that were missed. Just by looking at the tax transcripts, not only were things missed, there were some things that were not even filed. We reviewed every line item by line item. We took our time and we saw so many discrepancies, so many errors, and so many omissions from these particular tax transcripts. And the main thing of what we found was that, guess what, guys? She didn't owe the IRS. The IRS actually owed her, right? And the IRS owed her thousands of dollars. So imagine if this was you. It was money that was just sitting there for years. It hadn't been untouched because no one thought to go back into time to see, hey, let's really find out what's going on. Things that were, if I have in my gut that I know something is wrong and I know that it needs to be taken care of, what can I do to go find the resolution for this? So we went back in time and we found all of these errors. And with those errors is where we saw thousands of dollars that she was owed from the IRS. So she had been stressing all these years thinking that she owed the IRS when the IRS, in fact, owed her. Her tax returns were telling a different story, right? So, what we did to resolve this situation for this child care owner is that we amended all of her returns. So, guys, you can go back and amend your returns. There's nothing wrong with going back and amending returns. You're not going to get flagged for an audit, nothing's going to happen to you. So, we went back, we amended her returns, we made the corrections, the accuracies, and then we filed her tax returns with the IRS. And I would say in about 6 to 8 weeks, she received a refund check of thousands of dollars. And suddenly, guys, that stress that she was feeling, that suffocation that she was feeling, it all lifted up off of her. So her mental was back. And not only was her mental health was back, guess what? She had a number of opportunities with this refund that she received from the IRS, opportunities that not only expanded her business, but increased her revenues in her business 3 times. So the first thing she did with the refund that we got back for her from the IRS was that she expanded her existing location. And what I mean by that is that she added on a couple of classrooms. She was able to hire a couple of staff to tend to those particular classrooms. And of course, with that additional enrollment, it increased her revenues. And with the tax return, also, she was able to buy a 15 fleet of transportation. I think it was 15, 16 passenger vans. And what this allowed her to do, she's always wanted to run an after school program, but she just didn't have the necessary transportation or reliable transportation rather to do so. With that refund money, like I said, she was able to buy a fleet of vans, and this allowed her to increase her revenues as well, as she was able to offer this additional service to her parents with regards to after school care and picking up, dropping off, things like that. And last but not least, what really moved the needle in the revenues for this particular childcare owner was that she had money left over, guys, to where she was able to purchase an additional facility that was being sold right down the street. I would say 5 or 10 miles away from her. And she was able to put down a down payment. Again, this is not money that's coming out of her pocket. This is money that had just been sitting with the IRS for years, and she just had no way of knowing how to get it and didn't even know that it was due and owing to her until we did that time tax machine method and went back in time and amended her tax returns, right? So she was able to 3x her revenue in a little of no time just by amending her tax returns. So basically, what I'm saying is here is the truth that most child care owners don't know. Just because a tax return is filed, that does not mean that it's filed accurately. And just because you think you owe, it doesn't mean that you actually do. Sometimes the biggest financial breakthrough is not just moving forward, it's actually going back into time, going back in previous years to fix mistakes that were missed. So, as a childcare owner, if you ever felt like something was off with your taxes, trust your gut feeling because you're probably right. And if you're a childcare owner and you want to find out if the IRS owes you money from back years, go ahead and click the link.